Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about chapter 8 of Linguistics. Our topic is adverbials, auxiliaries, and sentence type. And now we are going to talk about adverbials. Three different types of adverbial function are distinguished. First one is adjunct adverbial and disjunct adverbial and conjunct adverbial. And we are going to start with adjunct adverbials. Adjunct adverbials, or AA, generally answer one of the following questions: how, manner, example, carefully, with, enthusiasm. For example, he listened to the lesson carefully. If we ask the question how he listened to the lesson, the answer would be like that: he listened carefully. It replied the question of how. And the other is when, and it represents time. For example, yesterday, on Tuesday, and where, and it represents the place, there, in kitchen, and the question of why. It identifies the reasons of anything. For example, for no reason, and how often. It represents the frequency: twice, monthly, and how long. Duration: for 2 years. And the four most common type of adjunct adverbial are manner, time, place, and the reason. And noun phrases can also occasionally function as adverbials. These fall into a number of different types. The first type is directional adverb. For example, home, upstairs, outside. And measure phrases: 10 miles, 2 hours, and time expression: today, this morning. And adverbials are optional modifiers. And traditionally they are said to be modifying the verb, but they are better understood as modifying the verb together with the complementing, which we can call V bar, and we represent it like that. Thus, we will introduce adverbial into our phrase structure grammar as optional sister of V bar in the following way. Verb phrases extended V bar, prepositional phrase, adjective phrase, and noun phrase. And the sentence above would have the following three diagrams. Let's draw the diagram of this sentence. First, this is a sentence, so I write it down as, and I'm going to break it to part. as noun phrase and verb phrase. Noun phrase is pronoun we, and verb phrase is also break it into two parts as v-bar and prepositional phrase. V-bar is also divided into two parts as again v-bar and noun phrase. V-bar is V group, it is came, and adverbial phrase here. We completed with, came, here, and today, and noun phrase is today. And prepositional phrase is for a breather is prepositional phrase. Our diagram is like that. And corpus examples show us that adverbial are very free in their placement, appearing in different positions in the sentence, not just sentence final. For example, adverbial can be seen in the sentence initial, as here. Yesterday I saw him. Adverbial was used sentence initial, and also they can came across in the sentence final. For example, road remained dangerous yesterday. And it can be used as proverbial. You always see new faces at those shop, always. As we see, it used as proverbial. After the verb complement, they sold their house quickly for a big profit. And finally, they can use within auxiliary. My mother and I have always. As we see, we used it after have, me, and after auxiliary, exceptionally close. And the second type of adverbial is disjunct adverbial. Traditionally, these are known as sentence adverbs. They denote the speaker's attitudes toward or judgment of propositions, expressing, for example, the speaker's degree of truthfulness or his manner of speaking, as in this case of the adjunct adverbial. Adjective phrases or prepositional phrases may serve as disjunct adverbial. For example, adverbial phrases are seriously, truthfully, frankly, certainly, personally, and sadly. And prepositional phrases are, of course, to my surprise, in all frankness and in broad terms. And sometimes the same lexical term can be both an adjunct and disjunct. Adjunct adverbial: I have seriously considered banning Christmas gift this year. And disjunct adverbial: seriously is a pretty funny slow. In the first sentence, seriously means in a serious manner. In a serious manner. And while in the second sentence it means being serious when I say. And the third type of adverbial is conjunct adverbial. Traditionally, these are known as conjunctive adverbs. They express textual relations serving to link clauses. They have no function in their own clauses. They may be adverbial phrases or prepositional phrases. Adverbial phrases are moreover, however, and consequently, thus, therefore, instead, and finally, indeed, besides, hence, nonetheless, and the prepositional, in addition to, in conclusion, for example, as a result, and on the contrary, on the one hand, on the other hand, in other words. And now we are going to talk about auxiliary. Auxiliaries, they are noun as specifier of the noun, and they appear to specifier of the verb. These are traditionally called auxiliary verbs, and the primary auxiliary are have and be, and the dummy auxiliary do, and the modal auxiliaries are will, can, shall, may, and must, and they cannot stand alone in a sentence. Instead, there must be a lexical or main verb present, which function as head of the verb group. And tense is attached to the first element in the verb group. The verb or auxiliary carrying tense is called finite, and all other forms are called non-finite. And the second element in the verb group is modal auxiliary. The modal auxiliary is the first independent element in the verb group, but it needn't be present. M is optional. If a modal is present, it carries tense. The form of the auxiliary have or be or the main verb which follows the modal is the basic stem from, also called the bare infinitive. And we can show the modal auxiliaries like here. M is extended, shall, will, may, and must. And the third element in the verb group is perfection, perfect or perf. Like modals, perf is optional. It contains auxiliary have and the form following have, whether it is another auxiliary or the main verb, and is in the form of past or perfect participle. We account for these sequences with the following phrase structure rule: perf, extended, have, and n. This n is an abstract marker for past participle n and ed, and which will later be attached to the form following have, ed, and so on. And the fourth element in verb group is progressive. Prog is also optional, and it contains auxiliary be, and in the active voice the form following be is always the main verb. We account for this sequence with the following phrase structure rule, like prog, be, ing, auxiliary is extended, t is past and present, represent past and present, and m is modals, which is extended shall, may, can, will, and must, and the pref is have and an, and the progressive be and ing. A passive sentence is typically seen as being directly related to its active counterpart, since the choice of the passive affects the structure of the entire sentences. Consider this affect and passive pair. The art expert could have detected the forgery, and the passive is active, and the second sentence is the passive form of the first sentence. Passive verb group contains be and n sequence just before the main verb. Like we seen in the second sentence, the forgery could have been. And the subject of the active sentence. The subject of the active sentence is the art expert. Is the object of the preposition by end of the passive sentence. As we see, the subject of the active sentence is the object of the passive sentence. And the direct object of the active sentence, the direct object of the active sentence is the subject of the passive sentence. And when it comes to the verb subcategorization and the passive, there are some rules. The first is monotransitive verbs or transitive verbs may be pacified. For example, the direct object of the active becomes subject of the passive. As in this example, a Japanese executive could have done it. The direct object of active becomes the subject of the passive sentence. And the second, intransitive verbs cannot be pacified since they have no direct object. For example, the dog barked is an intransitive verb and have no any direct object, so we cannot say blah blah was barked by dog. And the third rule is copulative verbs cannot be pacified since they have no direct object. For example, she is good at the cook cannot transform into a good cook is being bought by her. Copulative verbs cannot be pacified because as is in example, they have no any direct object. And these transitive verbs may be pacified with either of the direct object or the indirect object of the active becoming the subject of the passive sentence. For example, a friend gave me is indirect object, shelter, and we can transform into I was given shelter by a friend. And the fifth rule is complex transitive verbs may be pacified. The direct object of the active becomes the subject of the passive. For example, the people there elected him president. The direct object of active sentence is him. Become the subject of the passive sentence, he. But not president elected him by the people in there. And the sixth one is prepositional phrase verbs when they are non-locative may usually be pacified. For example, the entire pharmaceutical industry agreed to the same limits. The same limits were agreed to by the entire pharmaceutical industry. And the seventh one is this prepositional verbs may sometimes be pacified. The object phrase of the first object phrase is the bus. In the active becomes the subject of the passive, the bus. And the eighth one is transitive phrasal verbs may usually be pacified. The direct object of the active, the direct object is it, becomes the subject of the passive, it. Passive, active. But certain transitive verbs cannot be pacified. For example, we cannot say that the color suits you. The color suits you, we cannot pacify it is you are suited by the color. Or the dress fits me. We cannot say that I am fit by dress. We can extend the examples like Jake resembles his father. We cannot pacify is his father is resembled by Jake. The object here, the direct object is his father, but we cannot make it subject of the passive sentence. And when it comes to do support, placing tense before the subject or negative after tense results in what is called tense stranding, because by the rule of affix hopping there is nothing for tense to attach to. It must attach to the immediately following elements, and that element must be verbal, but in the interrogative the subject follows, and in the negative not follows. So a verbal element must be supplied by inserting the dummy auxiliary do. This serves the function of the auxiliary when there is no other independent auxiliary present. This insertion transformation is called do support, and the surface tree produced by do support did the children stand by their father? Let's diagramming it. Firstly, it's a sentence, so I write it down as, and then I'm going to divide into three main parts as its auxiliary did, and the children is noun phrase MP, and stand by their father is the verb phrase. Auxiliary is T. As you know, T is means present or past, and it's past, so I write it down past. And the MP is the children, and verb group is can divide it into two parts as V bar is stand, and by their father is prepositional phrase. Our diagramming is like that. Apart from auxiliary dummy do, there are two other do's in English, as main verb and as proverb. As main verb, no one does dishes. Do is main verb here. And as proverb, he buzzed again and so did the others. The main verb is here buzzed, and do is here. So it used as a proverb because used after the main verb. We called it proverb. And our other part is tag questions. An additional type of question is tag question. Here are some examples for tag questions. Your 3-year-old is healthy, isn't she? And I should have known, shouldn't I? And we can extend it. Einstein would have never said that, would he? People haven't always driven like this, have they? And the tag follows the comma and consists of the following. First is tense and the first auxiliary of the main clause, for example, or the if there isn't one. And the second is a pronoun identical in person, number, and the gender with the subject of the main clause. And third is a marker of negative polarity, that is, if the main clause is positive, occurs, and if the main clause is negative, no negative elements occurs. And tag questions are called ill-formed if the pronoun does not have the same features and as the subject, or if a different auxiliary than that in the main clause is used. Here is an example. Alison will be leaving soon, won't she? We cannot say that Alison will be leaving soon, won't he, or won't they, or won't you. She is appropriate here only. And Alison will be leaving soon, won't she? We cannot say that Alison will be leaving soon, can't she, or isn't she, or doesn't it. Won't is appropriate for here. And now let's have a look at imperatives. For example, pass these out before each class, or take a look at your sales records and don't be doormat. There are a number of tests for you in imperatives. First, consider the reflexive pronouns. These are pronouns with self or selves. Attached to a personal pronoun which have the same referent as the subject of the clause. That is, they are agree in number, person, gender with the subject. For example, just do your job himself. Or they take themselves too seriously, they exaggerate. And in imperatives, only yourself, not any other reflexive pronoun can occur. For example, we can say that only shoot yourself. We cannot say that shoot himself or myself. Only yourself can occur, or dress yourself. And in imperatives, the second person pronoun must be reflective, not non-reflective form. For example, shoot you and dress you. And secondly, consider the idiom lose and find one's ways. Only possessive pronoun can occur with the index subject. For example, Andrew lost his way. We cannot say that Andrew lost her way, or lost their way, or Andrew found his way. When this idiom occur in imperatives, only your can occur. Don't lose your way home. Don't lose my way home cannot occur, or don't lose their way cannot occur. Only your can occur. And the behavior of the tag question with imperatives. Let's have a look at them. Help me is imperative. Won't you it occur with the second person. And imperatives cannot occur with a modal or auxiliary have or be in S structure. We cannot say that have opened the door. It cannot occur with have or be, I mean with auxiliary. And we can not see them with modals. We cannot say that in imperatives can pass the salt. We can only say that pass the salt. And an imperative will have a subject you and present tense and will plus the rest of the imperative as pass the salt. You is subject here and pass is present and the rest of imperative. Thank you for listening.